Are you too busy to practice? Today we'll learn how to stop wasting precious time with aimless noodling and get some big results with the limited time that you have. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. We're about to get into it. I am Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. Are you a busy person? I'm a pretty busy person, I'd have to say. Maybe one of the dumbest questions I've asked. Everybody's busy anymore. Of course you are. I know I am. If you're not a busy person, count your blessings and get ready, because I'm going to join you one of these days. Save me a seat. Okay. I'm coming. I'm looking forward to it. Right. But I'm guessing that the majority of us are pretty busy, and being busy is a direct enemy of practicing the guitar. I know that my busyness and my tasks tend to expand. They inflate like a balloon. If I have this amount of time, all that stuff's going to take the entire time and probably won't even get finished that time. That balloon is usually aiming directly at the time that I have to play guitar. And guitar is always the first to go. That's a problem for me. That's a problem probably for us. You see, me and you and I, we have something in common. We've decided that we're going to learn this thing no matter what. We've drawn the line in the sand, right? I have spoken, if you watch The Mandalorian. This is, it's a good thing to be solid on that, but it creates some stress, doesn't it? We've got two immovable objects and they're on a collision course. Life on one side, ding, 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 and guitar on the other. But it doesn't have to be that way. Relax. Calm down when it comes to playing guitar. You see that there are ways to get tons of results from the guitar, even though you live an extremely busy lifestyle. So let's spend some time looking at this problem. And we're going to see how other players who have even less time to practice than you and I are getting great results. Number one, have you heard me repeat the word repetition? I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. Repetition, repetition. We need to get this stuff in our long-term memory. I can say it over and over again, and then I'll ask certain students, how many times did you practice? Oh, once or twice. I can't overemphasize this enough. How important it is to get these skills that you're learning on autopilot. If you can't play your big four scales, major, minor, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, if you can't play them all over the neck of the guitar without thinking, you're going to be distracted. If you're always concerned about remembering how to perform something, you will always be distracted from listening and distracted from creating. We have a present. You're the receiver. You're the recipient of a golden ticket. And that's called daily practice. It's priceless. It makes everything easier. Everything. And it accelerates your goals. It speeds everything up. All you got to do is show up and spend, 20 minutes a day. It's fantastic. Let's talk about a remedy for not having a whole lot of time to practice. Short, focused practice routine. But this needs a lot of planning to get right. This just isn't, okay, well, every day at 4, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to practice for 10 minutes. And you sit there, you don't know what you're going to practice. We need to do some planning here. So one of the things I do for a lot of people is plan these things out. And written planning is the best way to get this right. If you have only 10 minutes to practice, it will slip by before you know it. But if you put on repeat only the things that matter and only the things that bring value, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. Think about that. How much of what you're playing in your practice is meaningful, is actually going to get you better, and how much is just spinning your wheels, and how much is taking you in a direction that's not where you want to be. It's pretty important, especially if you're busy. You don't have the time to be messing around. We can sit down and repeat these things over and over again that are directly ahead of us, that are directly going to lead to the next step in your playing, and use the power of your mind. Have you ever, I've said this a few times, I'm going to keep saying it again. Have you ever practiced at night, worked on something, couldn't do it? We're very upset about it. Oh man, I'm never going to get this. Go to sleep. Get up the next day, pick up your guitar, and all of a sudden now you can play it. What happened in between that time? What happened between when you went to bed and you couldn't play it and when you woke up and you could? That's proof. That's proof that your mind is busy working on things, working on doing problem solving while you're sleeping. So if my brain is doing good things for me while I'm sleeping, well, how about I start to count on it? How about I start to realize, if I keep this repetition up and maybe I'm not getting it so well here, I'm not going to stress about it because I've got this. There is some time that I've got while I'm sleeping that things are going on. Things are working. But let's talk about a different situation. Say you're busy, but you have several times during the day where you could practice. You have several short free spots during the day. That's an opportunity right there. Say, well, I watch TV for about 20 minutes here, and then I do, I just do nothing before I go to bed. We can use those little times to your advantage. You don't have to practice everything all at once. We could use those spots to get in a well-rounded routine. For me, during the day, I'm in different mental states. There's some times where I'm able to focus really well, think really well, and there's other times where I'm done. I can't think of anything. I can barely do anything. Usually, right after dinner, I'm not really good for much, right? So, if you sit down with a piece of paper and write down how you feel at different points of the day, take a look at what that looks like and start to take a look at the things that you want to put as part of your practice. And see what you can mix and match to those different times. Batch things together that will match your mental state. The times that you're most likely in tune with that. Let's talk about technique exercises. So, scale patterns, technique exercises, chord patterns. These are things you don't have to think about much. These are things that you just need time with the guitar to do. Okay, technique exercise 1, 3, 2, 4. Well, you can do that all day long without thinking, right? So later on in the evening, I'm done. I've had work all day. I had an hour drive home, hanging out with everybody, but I do have this, 10, 15 minutes before I go to bed. I'm not good for much then. Well, you know what you're good for? You're good for technique exercises and you're good for chords and you're good for scale repetition. They're great later in the day when you're most likely not in that position to think clearly. No brainer stuff, right? No brain. So if we say, okay, well, I don't have to practice this all at once. I can split this up throughout the day. And those are really good. When I, later on, when you're good, tired routines, well, Well, man, that frees up more time to work on new skills, new songs, things that require a lot of thought earlier in the day when you're better. Now, you may be the opposite of me. Later in the day, you may be able to focus more. Early in the day, you're really busy and you can't focus straight. That's opposite of how I am, but I'm not the only person here, right? You guys everyone has a different way that they handle things, right? Targeting chord tones. That's a very difficult thing to do. So you've got a lot going on at once. You're listening to a backing track or a band playing through chords. You're trying to remember your scale patterns. Hopefully you're not. Hopefully they're on autopilot by now, but say you're having to remember them, right? And then, okay, well, I've got 3 or 4 chords coming up. Each of them have a few notes that I need to outline, that I need to feature so that everything works out nicely. I can get that solo that I want. And it all happens in real time. You need a lot of mental energy for that. Those things you can save to work on for the times where you're able to really process things clearly. So that could be, for me, it would be early in the morning when I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to go through that chord progression. I'm going to see if I can, every time the C comes around, I'm going to try and hit the E note. That's one of the notes in that chord. I'm going to target that and see what happens, right? Perfect time for that for me. So there we go. We've been talking about busy day practice schedules. If you are struggling with this, and let's talk about the whole reason I'm doing this is because this is happening with people that I am helping right now. So when the issue comes up more than a few times, it's going to end up in the podcast. So I assume that it's happening to a lot of people too. So think about it. Think about today, what time you have to practice, and what your mental state is at that time, and try and get those things together. I think it's a good idea. What's the next best step for you? Well, anytime we have a practice, centered podcast, I always make sure that you can get your free guitar practice space checklist, and get yourself set up for success. That can hold you back so much. If you're in an environment that is not great for practicing, and it's, some people can handle if you're in a messy place, and some people think well in a messy place, that's great. But if you're not one of those people and you're having to be in a messy place, then, take one of your practices and start working on, get the worksheet, download it, put some inspirational things around you so it feels good when you're there to practice. Keep your guitar out, and then the whole list of things that I have for you. This is a shorter episode, but it's an important one. Those are my tips for people who are busy. And if you have some time to think about your situation and think about being intentional with your practice, it's going to help you out in the long run. Okay, I'm going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you've benefited from this podcast, please leave a favorable Apple Podcast review. Best way to make sure we get this very valuable content to more guitar players around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, what are you waiting for? Play Guitar Academy is here. Join the world's most exciting and carefully planned guitar system. And together we will build your online home base for guitar. Thanks again. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.